Thursday, December 12th, 2019. The time is 9 a.m. I'm calling this meeting to order, and attending are Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Filios, and I'm going to ask Amy to please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so do we have any conflicts of interest?
No.
Hearing none, I don't have any opening comments per se. Director Callahan, is there anything you'd like to say?
No, sir. Ben's on top of this.
Okay, so we are meeting to hear case number CUP 19-0006, and it's a request by Claudia Jean Davis for a conditional use permit, also known as a CUP, for a privately owned recreation facility on a 4.776 acre parcel located in the agricultural suburban zone. Ben, take it away, please.
Good morning. For the record, Ben Tarbutton, Kootenai County Planning. As Commissioner Filios introduced, this is a conditional use permit for a privately owned recreational facility for a dog agility training facility. The location of the site is just off of Pleasant View and I-90, just south of that intersection, north of Corbin Park. Here is, it's an older Google photo or image. Looking north, you'll see Corbin Road on the east and extending here to the south. Here's a shot looking west. Again, this is an older photo where the previous owner had a residential use, and accessory buildings, and miscellaneous storage. A brief history of the project. There was a conditional use permit that was applied for in 2016 for the dog agility training facility. The same owner, C.J. Davis. In that application request, there were some additional uses proposed, trainings and trials, some of which were anticipated to hold maybe 100 plus guests at the site. As a result, there were some agency concerns because of that. The site is over the aquifer, in which there's limited wastewater treatment for that reason, and then the health district had some concerns with that amount of wastewater being generated. There was some concerns of the city as well, but also of the neighbors. There was some opposition. It went through hearing examiners' public hearing. They provided a recommendation of denial, and it was withdrawn by the applicant. In 2018, the applicant applied for a building permit. The building permit included a residential structure within a approximately 11,000 square foot shop. It was on the second floor. It was approximately about 320 square feet. So it was a second story. But it was an outright permitted use in the zone, and therefore the permit was issued. During the construction, the county issued a couple of code violations on the site due to the use of the structure. The applicant was using the structure in addition to the residential use as a dog agility training facility. And so there was a violation placed on the property because of that. In addition to that, there was a lower bathroom constructed on the main floor to serve the patrons of the dog agility training facility, and so it wasn't consistent with the approved plans. So the corrective action, of course, would be to gain approval through the CUP process for the privately owned recreation facility. In addition to that, a change of use building permit from the residential to commercial use. Currently, this is what the site looks like. You'll see all of the older structures, miscellaneous storage has been cleared out, and the new structure as it exists today. So the project overview for this conditional use permit, again, It is 4.7 acres, or approximately there, in the agricultural suburban zone. The access comes from Corbin Road, which is public. The dog agility training activities are as follows. I believe you may be familiar with those, and I can certainly go into those in greater detail if you prefer. But staff's understanding regarding the use is that it is a reduced impact from the previous application, as they are no longer proposing to do the trial events, which are anticipated to have 100+ guests there. So they are no longer proposing to do that. It's exclusively indoor, so there will not be any uses outside of the structure, therefore reducing the impact with regards to noise and so on. And it would be primarily seasonal. Most of the users would use the facility in the wintertime when they can't use their yards and such for training facilities or activities. Site plan from the applicant. Have a parking area up here at the front. Access, you'll see here that it was constructed to be more of a U-shaped access. Per some comments from the Highway District, and I'll touch base on that here soon, they will be limiting it to one access off of Corbin Road. Again, it's located in the agricultural suburban zone, which does require a conditional use permit for this type of use. The comprehensive plan designation is border, which promotes future annexation for the city. It is located in the exclusive tier area of city impact for the city of Post Falls. The ACI agreement requires development to use public sewer. However, the city of Post Falls determined that because of the nature of the use, they did not feel that it rises to the level of impact to require such developments, so they were okay with the county in not requiring that.
Mm-hmm.
During the agency review period, again, Panhandle Health District with the new application had no objections. However, there were some requirements at the time of development. Specifically, that lower bathroom would need to be decommissioned, and they would need to permit a vault toilet system. And the reason for the vault toilet system, again, is it has to be separate from the wastewater system for the residents because it's over the aquifer and the acreage of the site. And so they're only allowed 250 gallons per day, and the residence takes all of that threshold. So they've exceeded the threshold with this new use, and so that's why they're proposing this vault toilet. So there is no discharge subsurface. It would be contained and then pumped as on needed basis.
Okay.
Kootenai County Fire and Rescue had no objections. They are requiring installation of a hydrant on Corbin Road, which I believe the applicant is working on fulfilling. Post Falls Highway District, no objections. Again, they did require the consolidation of the two approaches into one and to have it paved, which the applicant is willing to do. Kootenai County Building Division, again, no objections, just requirements at the time of the change of use building permit application. And City of Post Falls, again, no objections there. We did receive 8 comments, 1 in support, 1 neutral, 6 opposed, largely because of compatibility, feeling that it was a commercial use in a largely residential neighborhood, and also traffic. Staff, in an attempt to reach out to public, did make some site visits to communicate with public to see if any questions could be answered regarding the project. We did have opportunity to talk to a few neighbors, which we do feel was fruitful, so it was helpful in the long run, I believe. The HE recommendation came back with an approval. The application they felt was consistent with the comprehensive plan based on the City of Post Falls comments. I guess the city felt that since it's minor in nature, or the use is less intense, it would still give them the ability to annex the property without any major issues. So for that reason, the HU felt that it was consistent with the designation border. However, they did have some reservations regarding compatibility with the surrounding area due to traffic, commercial use in the residential area. And as a result, they proposed a condition, and you'll see that in the recommendation, 8.18. And I'd like to just kind of read that and spend a little bit of time going over that condition. It does say that this conditional use permit for a privately owned rec facility is valid for a period of 2 years from the date of approval. In the event a request for a 2-year extension is submitted to continue uninterrupted operations, a complete application should be submitted to Kootenai County Community Development no less than 6 months prior to the expiration of this permit. Staff.
Can you hold Ben, the
Yep.
recorder, just stop responding? Back on. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Staff understands why the hearing examiner made this recommendation as a condition of approval, given the concerns as mentioned earlier. However, staff feels that a condition like this may be overly burdensome both for the applicant and for staff to process a conditional use permit on a 2-year basis in perpetuity. Now, as you are aware, of course, as under the board's discretion, has the ability to either uphold any of these conditions, to strike any of the conditions, or modify the conditions as see fit. I guess staff would just offer that the board consider the burdensome nature of the condition in their deliberations and decision. And that would be the conclusion of the introduction there. Do you have any questions?
Questions for Ben?
The applicant's aware of the 18 conditions and is willing to, or able to comply.
The applicant does have concerns with the 18th condition, as well as staff, as mentioned, but they, yes.
And the 18th condition being postponed?
No.
No, the time year, excuse me, the time limit.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, the 2-year potential
Yes.
renewal, yeah.
Yeah. So in that renewal process, is that another deliberation and everything, or is that just
It's a
merely?
full-on new process. So they would submit a new application, we'd have a new public hearing, we'd go to HE, we'd go to public agencies, public comment, the whole process would run again.
Could it, at that point, if we were to do that, that 18th condition be removed?
The next,
Sure.
it is
Yes.
certainly possible to do
So
that.
that's what I'm saying, so it's not in perpetuity.
No, because it's a new hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Ben. So, Ms. Davis, would you wish to speak?
Oh, this
This
is
is a
deliberations.
Oh, forgive me. That's exactly what it is,
I'd
okay.
love to speak.
Sorry about that.
Don't get her started.
No, I shouldn't. Not the first time I've made that mistake. Okay. All right. Okay then, so since these are deliberations, thoughts?
I agree with the burdensome, but I also want to alleviate concerns of the residents, because then it's on them to notice the non-compliance of one of the conditions and then bring it to your attention, and then I guess my question to staff would be, if we took that condition off, do you feel that there's still a good mechanism in order to make sure that the conditions are complied with?
Mr. Chairman,
David, go ahead.
we always have the ability to monitor uses, and if they're violative of any conditions of approval, ultimately bring it back to you and ask for a revocation. That's one option. I believe it's within your wherewithal and the libs to decide that you want something just different from what the hearing examiner is recommending. So you could think about 3 years or 4 years or something.
Right, yeah, and also violations can be enforced through the code violation process, so if they're violations, but they're not, egregious enough to bring it before the board for revocation, then we can, try to resolve it that way
Bill?
I have no problem removing the 2-year requirement with the understanding that there are mechanisms by which we can come back and review this if there were a problem. But why make it difficult on everybody?
Leslie, anything further?
No, I tend to agree with that. I just, even pushing it out 4 years, I just think it's a lot of unnecessary work. If there are violations, it can be dealt with ahead of time and don't need to redo this, so. But my understanding is if we approve this, then they still have to go through the building permit process of changing over, and then that's another, is that any public hearing, public notice? That's
All
just internal.
administrative.
Administrative. Okay. All right, I suppose I'd be fine with conditions 1 through 17.
Okay. I have a little different twist. I'd like to keep the final condition. I usually take a critical look of commercial operations in a residential zone. Commercial zones exist for a reason, residential zones exist for a reason. I don't have a problem granting the request, but I would like to keep the 2-year potential renewal in place for that very reason. And if there's not a problem, there's not a problem, we renew it, and at that point we go into a public hearing. We can even revoke that condition. But given the fact that most of the residents are opposed, and not that I necessarily agree, but because it is a commercial operation, and I have to tell you, I have a dog that plays ball, I have another one that plays frisbee, a Doberman and a mini Aussie, and I'd love to see them both participate. But it might make life easier. And so I'm naturally very inclined to something like this, but it is a commercial operation. So I'm certainly willing to grant it, but I would like to see the requirement for the 2-year potential renewal stay in place.
Is there a less burdensome process than a new application?
I'm thinking off the top of my head, but I suppose we could make it an administrative review with the ability for me to kick it up to a hearing if I thought that was appropriate.
So basically, director's determination or opinion.
What do you think?
How, yes, how,
Huh?
I know I'm catching you off guard, but
That's okay,
We
Ben.
do care what you think, man.
thank you.
we had talked about this one before, so
Yeah, I'm just
I'm
looking
trying to
over
think through
the,
how you would.
the administrative approval procedures and whether or not that would give, it doesn't give public the
Wouldn't do a
ability.
public hearing.
It would, yeah, it wouldn't be having public
But
involvement
we
in any
could
way.
still, we could write into this that we would notice the neighbors, ask for response, and then if there are issues, I can make a determination, or anyone in my seat,
Yeah, I
take it to a
suppose,
hearing.
I suppose if we can create that process, then,
We're making this up on the wing,
Pat?
on the.
You okay with it?
I'm just looking at 88201 here, D3.
Material change.
Yeah, I'm mulling that over.
Okay.
Time.
Right.
But is it a material change, Pat?
That's kind of what I'm mulling.
You know, because that condition has presumably already been established by the hearing examiner.
Right.
We're simply taking a different twist on the process.
Or, yeah,
Right.
what's the
It
intent?
says a
Yeah.
minor modification may be granted by the director if it is determined that the requested modification would not constitute a substantial change to the findings and conclusions in the original approval, and that the proposed location, size, design, and operating characteristics of the proposed use and the conditions under which it would be operated or maintained would not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, or materially injurious to properties or improvement in the vicinity. So as long as I think as long as the use is compliant with all the
conditions of approval, and there's no, building permitting issues or anything. I think we could, after 2 years, consider that a minor modification to allow it to continue to operate beyond that time period.
But the minor modification process wouldn't involve public, it's
Right.
just an administrative, so would we create still something?
You could, I mean, you could, you could include in the condition that, before approval by the director shall solicit comments from agencies and the public.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Which basically is more process than the typical minor modification, but not as much as a new permit.
Permit. You guys okay with it?
You said agencies and
The public.
public.
Agencies and
Thank you.
public, okay. All right. Are we ready for a motion?
I think so.
Okay, go right ahead.
I move we approve case number CUP 19-006 with a modification to the conditions proposed by the hearing examiner, being 8.18 being changed to, after a 2-year period, apply for a,
Or the director to solicit?
Administrative review.
Well, the applicant would submit it for administrative review, and then,
submit a request for administrative review in which the director shall
go.
solicit comments from agency and public.
And make a recommendation? Or you don't need that?
well, it would be, and then make a decision as to whether it would be a minor modification or
The director would make that
not.
decision. Okay, and for the director to make the decision if it's a minor modification,
Whether it
is. Sorry,
Are you okay, Kathy?
It's good.
Okay,
Okay, yeah, I think it's fine.
okay.
Just real quick before, so the motion is after 2 years? So, okay. Well,
Oh.
Upon expiration, I guess, right?
Or,
We want to do it prior to expiration. Yeah,
Like 30 days prior, or what's the reasonable?
probably. David, what do you think?
Why don't we give it 2 months?
60 days?
60
Yeah,
days
that's
prior.
fine.
That way there's
Okay.
flexibility.
Fair enough.
Okay, and so do you amend your motion to include that?
Yes, I amend my motion to include application should be 60 days prior to the 2-year expiration.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, and the motion is carried. So case number CUP 19-0006 is approved with the conditions as stipulated and/or modified. Public comment? None. 9:23 a.m. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.